April 27, 2025, a date that now symbolizes the continuing downfall of Disney's much-debated remake of Snow White. Despite all the pre-release hype and lofty promises, the film has completely floundered at the box office. But perhaps the bigger story lies in the aftermath, with Rachel Zegler positioned right at the heart of the controversy. Rather than offering any apology, she's doubling down on her stance, even as her Hollywood career hangs by a thread. So, what's really unfolding behind the scenes? Let's dissect the reasons behind Snow White's collapse, Zegler's defiant response, and what all this means for the future of Hollywood's brightest stars. It's been a tough and tumultuous stretch for Disney, riddled with big-budget misfires, and Snow White is merely the latest addition to that growing list of disappointments. What was intended to be a bold, transformative take on a treasured Disney classic has instead turned into a financial and critical mess, and there's little sign of recovery. With dismal box office numbers and an uncertain Disney Plus release window, Snow White has quickly become a textbook case of how not to manage a high-stakes production. At the epicenter of this cinematic meltdown is Rachel Zegler, cast as the modern Snow White in a film many hoped would reimagine the fairy tale for a new generation. Instead, it's left audiences bewildered, outraged, and underwhelmed. Critics have slammed the movie for its weak storytelling, underdeveloped script, and its careless handling of the original source material. Zegler's polarizing public comments only amplified the backlash, turning what could have been a cultural moment into one of the most divisive releases in recent years. Currently, Snow White is limping toward a global box office total barely surpassing $190 million, a staggeringly low figure for a film with this level of anticipation. Disney had originally planned to roll it out on Disney Plus shortly after its theatrical run, but that timeline has now been postponed indefinitely. The studio is desperately reevaluating its next steps, but the damage appears irreversible. And here's where things take an even more contentious turn: Rachel Zegler's conduct. Rather than stepping back to assess what went wrong, she's launched into a series of defiant rants, claiming that criticism directed at the film and her performance is rooted in personal and political bias. Her public tirades have flooded social media, where she's actively pushed back against detractors, accusing them of misrepresenting both the film and her intentions. Zegler has shown no inclination to retreat from the storm. Instead, she's made it abundantly clear that she regrets none of her comments or actions. In one particularly heated statement, she argued that no performer should be canceled over a movie's financial failure, suggesting that cancel culture played a major role in torpedoing Snow White's success. According to Zegler, America's current cultural and political divisions are the real culprits. She believes that many who claim to love the classic Snow White were simply looking for an excuse to protest a film that challenged tradition. She stated, "There are a lot of people pretending to be lifelong fans of Snow White, but they led a boycott against our reimagined version just because it challenged their expectations. They disliked the changes and made sure we knew it, loudly and clearly." But this is where things start to unravel. Zegler seems unaware that the outrage wasn't just about politics or progressive themes. While those factors certainly alienated some viewers, much of the backlash stemmed from how the movie was marketed and how Zegler herself handled that messaging. Her earlier remarks, particularly those aimed at Trump supporters, saying they shouldn't watch the film if they voted for him, only served to inflame tensions. This effectively alienated a huge segment of potential moviegoers before the film even hit theaters. By injecting personal politics into the promotional campaign, Zegler essentially turned Snow White into a battleground, not a blockbuster. Disney, a brand built on universal, family-friendly appeal, suddenly found itself embroiled in political turmoil, largely due to Zegler's own missteps. And by that point, the fallout was unavoidable. Still, it's unfair to place the entirety of the blame on Zegler. Disney also played a significant role in this failure. The studio severely misread public sentiment when it came to reboots of its cherished animated classics. While audiences may welcome fresh takes, Snow White felt more like a vehicle for ideology than a heartfelt retelling. The film's overt focus on modern messaging and social commentary left many viewers wondering whether they were watching a fantasy or enduring a lecture. Creative decisions, such as replacing the traditional prince with a morally ambiguous outlaw and altering beloved characters, alienated fans who longed for a respectful update of the original. There's nothing wrong with modernization, but it requires nuance, something this project sorely lacked. And then there's the unavoidable fact: Zegler's presence in the marketing made her the face of the film's identity. Instead of using that spotlight to connect with a diverse audience, she allowed her personal beliefs to eclipse the movie's narrative. In the end, it wasn't just the movie that bombed, it was Zegler's approach to the audience that added fuel to the fire. Rather than opening a dialogue, she built a wall between herself and the viewers, a move that's rarely forgiven in showbiz. Now, with Snow White fading fast from theaters, Zegler remains defiant. Her unwavering unwavering defense of her political views is both bold and risky. While there's something admirable about sticking to your principles, timing is everything. And this was a moment when unity would have served the film far better than confrontation. By making her politics a focal point, she alienated many who were simply seeking an enjoyable film experience. So, is this the end of Rachel Zegler's Hollywood ascent? It certainly appears that way. While she retains a loyal corner of fans, her broader appeal is quickly diminishing. She's now seen as the symbol of Snow White's implosion, and her unwillingness to reflect on her part in it could be a career killer in an industry driven by public perception. It's worth remembering that Snow White was supposed to catapult Zegler into Hollywood's A-list after her breakout in West Side Story. Instead, she's become a polarizing figure, more recognized for her divisive comments than her acting range. If she doesn't tone down the rhetoric and focus on reclaiming her image, she risks being quietly edged out of big-budget projects altogether. As for Disney, the company now faces a crossroads. The issue isn't just about one film's failure, it's about how to proceed in a world where cultural and political rifts are shaping consumer behavior. Should they continue revamping legacy stories, or take a hard look at how these stories are being told, and who's telling them? The damage from Snow White could linger for years, especially given Disney's recent pattern of underperforming releases. Hopes that the movie will find a second life on Disney Plus seem more like wishful thinking than a viable strategy. Audiences, it seems, have already moved on. Ultimately, Rachel Zegler's refusal to walk back her contentious remarks could shadow her for years to come. She stood firm in her convictions, but in an industry where popularity often outweighs principle, that stance could cost her dearly. Fans and critics alike are growing tired of political posturing and entertainment, and Zegler's inability to separate the two may have sealed her fate. What do you think? Has Zegler's career officially derailed, or is there still time for redemption? And did Disney go too far with this remake? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you appreciated this deep dive, be sure to like the video and subscribe for more updates.